who is Professor Hugo Sarmento. Dr. Sarmento is an assistant professor at the Faculty of Sports Science and Physical Education of University of Coimbra. His main research interest is the study of talent identification and development and performance analysis in sport. He has published more than 80 international peer-reviewed original articles and has been an investigator in several research projects. He is a reviewer for several scientific journals in the field of sports science. Additionally, he's a member of several editorial boards of respectable national and international journals. He accumulated significant experience as a football coach in different competitive levels and age categories. So today, the topic of his presentation is also very interesting, developing talented football players, genes or environment. Very good question, Professor Sarmento. Many researchers trying to find like which one is like better than the other, or which one is like, you know, more effective than the other. So it's your turn. Go ahead, and then please start your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much for your words. First of all, I hope you are safe and well in this specific moment of our lives. I would like to congratulate the organization for more these events. Year after year, you are organizing these events. My congratulations to our president, also to Dusko Jelica. And I would like also to congratulate Stevo Popovic, because we are talking a lot about these conferences. Yes, my topic is very challenging. I will put the okay. Are you seeing my presentation?
Yes. Yes, you
yes? Okay. My topic it's about the talent identification and development in football. This is the traditional question. This is due to genes or environment, and there are a lot of studies, but we can't ask objectively to this question. So. To make a previous state, as you know, we have in Portugal some talented players. Okay, right now, in last year, we have the best football player of the world, the best futsal player of the world, and the best beach soccer player of the world. And we started some years ago to win some important competitions in football, in futsal, and in beach soccer at European level or at world level. But when I start to study this specific topic, especially in Portugal, we don't have won anything, okay? Those trophies that I previously showed to you were after my study beginning. And when I start my study, the two of the most important achievements were the Under-20 World Championships of '89 in Riyadh and '91 in Lisbon. In over 100 years of history, never any other Portuguese national team achieved such a feat. Under the leadership of the coach Carlos Queiroz, that now is the main coach of the Colombian national team, players like Figo, Rui Costa, Sousa, and so on became world champions, and after that achieved the level of football stars at the senior level. So if I put the picture, it's easy to recognize some of these incredible players. So we have too many two main questions for this study. What led this generation of players to dominate the 89 and 91 world champion? And what was the process that raised players like Figo, Costa, Paulo Sousa, and so on to the level of football stars? Developed a mixed method approach combining qualitative and quantitative approaches. First of all, we wrote a systematic review in this topic about talent identification and development in male football players that is published in Sports Medicine, and that help us to have the whole picture about the investigation in this specific topic. After that, we collect information of the newspapers in Portugal, mainly about the sportive newspapers. We have access to the official documents of the Portuguese Football Federation of this season. And based on that, we built an interview guide based on the scientific review, but also in the information that we collect from those documents. And we apply this interview to 31 of the 34 players of this generation. We also interviewed the main coaches of these two generations, Carlos Queiroz and Nel Vingada, and some journalists and some important authors for this group of players. The data analysis was based in qualitative and quantitative techniques, and based on our results, we established the ecological model of the Portuguese football gold generation, because we call this generation of players that won the two world championships the gold generation of Portuguese football. And these levels, the macro level and the micro level. At the macro level, there are specific aspects related with the specific Portuguese culture, the organization of the Portuguese Football Federation, the increment of academic formation related with sports sciences, and also coach education. At the micro level, we established the three major groups of variables, namely the work developed by the national youth technical staff, the career of those players, and at the junior and senior level. At the microenvironment, for each category, we have specified specific subcategories that we will discuss in a more detailed way during this presentation. First of all, the microenvironments highlights the Portuguese culture. This is a specific moment of our lives in Portugal when they won these competitions, because it's a moment after a post-revolution moment that was challenged many of the principles and values of our society in Portugal. Mr. Queiroz tried to take advantage of this fact to developing in these players the feeling of belonging to something in specific. At the same time, the Portuguese government published some specific laws in order to regulate and generalize was very important, because we can develop the football and the other sports in a more generalized way in Portugal at this moment. They promote the sport development contracts. That means they funded specific projects in order to increase the number of sports participants. And specifically in the case of football, in 4 years, the number of football players increased from 80,000 to 130,000 players. They also promote the dual careers by publishing a specific law which assigns specific rights to the elite athletes. And this is very interesting because was Mr. Queiroz that asked for the Portuguese government to give these rights for the players, because our gold generation that won the 2 world championships, all the players left the studies at the age of 15. Okay, because at this time don't have this type of regulation. They develop also some specific tests to detect the most talented players in the country. This is a group of tests to identify the young players with more ability, and all the schools in the country applied this test, and based on that, Queiroz can identify some of the most talented players at this time. Concerning the specific of Portuguese Football Federation and their regional associations, there exists a specific period that is not so good at this time, because it's post World Cup of Mexico in Saltillo, where all the things happen wrong with the Portuguese main national team. The players don't want to training because some marketing contracts and so on. So there are a strong resistance to implement changes inside the federation. But through an active and dynamic attitude of Mr. Queiroz, it was possible to implement some changes in order to increase the professionalism, restoration, modernization of the Portuguese Football Federation. And this is very important because still today we have collect some benefits from this reform that he implemented. University was an important role in this process. We highlight a specific aspect that had a decisive influence in this process: the development of a specific football department in the faculty when Carlos Queiroz was a student. Because Queiroz was a student in the University of Lisbon, and at this time they don't have a specific curricular unit for football. So he asked to implement this new curricular unit, and the football begins as a special curricular unit at this time with Carlos Queiroz. When he finished their students at the University of Lisbon, he started to teach at the university and he started to coach at the Portuguese Football Federation. And at this time, he teach Mourinho, for example, in University of Lisbon, because Mourinho was also being student in the University of Mourinho. An interesting fact was that when Queiroz started to coach the youth national teams, when he play in another country, he stay more 2 or 3 days in that country to try to understand the best practices of the football, the training process, and so on, to import to Portugal. He also, okay, you are not, yeah, okay. Additionally, he also studied in a systematic way the evolutionary tendencies of the game. At this time, he developed specific statistic methods utilizing the resources of University of Lisbon to try to understand what happens in football 10 years forward. And this was a very important thing in this process, because it can training based on the future, try to prepare the players for the future football that will be developed in 10 years later. At the same time, started a new dynamic of coach education on the knowledge of this faculty that improved the quality of the coach in Portugal, and naturally the quality of the players, the Portuguese players, because until now there are no coach education. So normally the ex-players are the coaches, but some of them don't have the necessary coach education to develop the best players. So, changing to a micro level, there are an important work done by the national youth technical staff, as I mentioned before. First of all, in the topic of talent identification. This is a difficult season where the Portuguese clubs are not well organized as today, and there are not a prospection by all the country to select the best players. So Queiroz found a very easy way to collect and to detect the best players. As the Portuguese Football Federation is organized in 22 regional football associations, each association should select the best under 15 team to play a 3-4 days big tournament in Lisbon. And at this moment, in this big tournament, Queiroz can observe all the best players of the country, and he selects the most talented players that form part of the under 15 team. And this is very interesting because from this initial selection at the age of under 15, almost 60% achieve the main national team. Okay, if we see now the number of players that started under 15 and reached the main national team, there are a lower percentage, around 15-20%, okay, in the best cases. He also promotes a change in the competitive system, okay, because the competitive system at this time is not challenging for our players, so he tried to increase the competitiveness in our championships. And most important, he developed a specific training process. At this time, the training was mainly based in the training of the different occupational conditions. And he tried promote a specific training based on the specific requirements of the game. And it's very interesting because there exists now an international current about the tactical periodization that we call the tactical periodization. And this is very interesting that Queiroz wrote the most of all the principles in a book that is available to sell in Portugal. And in this book, 35 years ago, he wrote all the principles of tactical periodization. You don't call tactical periodization, but inside we have the principles. So he created routines of expertise, isolating the most talented players in challenging contexts that allow them to improve their individual and team capacities. He promotes also long-term stages, normally 2 or 3 weeks, because it considers that there was not enough quality training in the most clubs at this time. So he preferred to select the players and training the players in the Portuguese Football Federation. This is very interesting because in this previous work as the main national coach in Iran, he do exactly the same with the senior players. Okay, so this is a specific game training or model. The players often stated that they perform many repetitions. In this form of the training are problems that are repeated, not solutions. The solutions were discovered by the players together, which each new approach of the same problem. It's what Bernstein called about the repetition without repetition. The players stated that at certain points they played with almost closed eyes. These two expert teams also self-correct, compensate for each other, and reallocate functions as necessary. And this is very important to create what is called in the scientific literature the expert teams. Okay, and this is true not only for the sport context, but the students these studies came from the business context. At this time, in a world of football dominated by the 4-4-2, Mr. Queiroz implemented the tactic of 4-3-3 because it considered that it was a system more pedagogical, and also because it did not have a strong forwards that can play with their backs to the goal. As he kept in the process a large number of players, he developed in this team this sense of identity. Okay, this team has an identity of principles, that a qualitative sense that was in the players' DNA, and this is a very important aspect to develop expert teams also. Concerning the leadership, Carlos Queiroz refers that to read and try to implement some principles of the Britain's Royal Navy leadership style. He believed that shared leadership can be more effective than traditional vertical leadership. And at youth level, we studied the training patterns, social influences, and personal factors, comparing the expert group that we defined the expert group as the players that compete at the senior level for the main national team with the non-expert group. The non-expert group are all the players that were World Championship at the age of 20, but don't achieve the main national team. Okay, and this is important because in the scientific literature there are some theories about the age of the debut in international competitions, and we can so by these results that there are no differences between the group of experts and non-experts in the age of debut in the international competitions. And we have some traditional theories, the theories of the 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to achieve the level of expertise, the traditional debate of sports or not, and so on. We try to define all the training patterns and all also the psychosocial patterns, and we found no differences between the two groups, the experts and the non-experts, as you can saw by this presentation. Okay, even the questions related with the parents and coaches support and pressure and so on that are well described in the literature as a potential influencers in the progress of the youth players. We don't have any differences in these two groups of players. So concerning the task work skills, Mr. Queiroz sought to develop players who could be fit for what would be elite football in a 10-year period. This is very important. He adjusts the training process to the evolutionary tendencies of the game, preparing skilled players for this reality. Okay? Concerning the teamwork skills, players refer to the cohesion of the group. And we know that expert teams are able to manage conflict appropriately by confronting each other effectively. So naturally, they developed also a strong sense of collective and confidence. They are confident with the team's ability to succeed and develop collective efficacy. It is interesting to note that the generation of '91 in Lisbon never lost a match in the 90 minutes period. They lost in the extra period and in penalty kicks decision. But during all the process of formation, from the 15 age to under 20 age, they never lost a match in the 19 minutes. And this is very interesting because the question was not if we win or no, but by how many goals we will win. The differences between the more and less successful players seems to be established at the senior level. And why? The players refer that some bad relationships with coaches and agents can have significant influence in their development careers. They also talk about the careers opportunities. Okay, this is an interesting example. The player from the left side is Paulo Pilar. Paulo Pilar is not a well-known player, even in Portugal. But when I interview all the players of this generation, all of them said me that Paulo Pilar was the best player of this generation. But Paulo Pilar got injured and withdrew from football 1 month before the World Championship in Lisbon. When he played, Rui Costa don't play. The titular, the main player of this generation was Paulo Pilar. And as he have this problem, start to play in this team, and after that, Rui Costa do an outstanding career. Okay, and so they talk about these specific career opportunities. Another example is from this player Nelson that all the time played as forward, and at the senior level, in the age of under 20. In a session training, the coach asked to Nelson to play as fullback, and he accepted. And after that, he did an outstanding career as a player in this specific position in the field. And this is very interesting because this player has an homozygous twin, and we start with the genetic parts, and this is very interesting because they are twins, they are homozygous, and they are the same experiences at the training patterns and psychosocial influences, because they played all the time in the same clubs until the senior age. All the time they live with their parents and so on. They learn in the same schools, and at the senior age, Nelson have this opportunity to change the position from forward to fullback and have an outstanding career. And his brother, that have the same development process, don't have the same source and go down, and he played in the second and third divisions in Portugal. So the genetic part or the environment influence, and this is very interesting to discuss. We published a paper with the two specific cases recently, so if you want to know more details about these two specific cases, you can read this paper. And based on that question about the genetic influence on football performance, we are also publishing a systematic review that will be published very, very soon. What we can conclude is that there are still a little number of studies that investigated. In the world of sports, Professor Yannis Pitsiladis was developing significant research in the context of genetic in sports, mainly in runners, in Kenyan runners. And he concluded, for example, that the World Championships, the Kenyan World Championships, were not different from the normal population in Kenya. Okay? Obviously, they were different from the European population and so on. But comparing to the general population of Kenya, there are no differences. In football, the studies that are focused in genetic were trying to analyze specific genes that have in especially in the endurance or strength. They analyze the propensity for get injured and specific types of injuries, the influence of the genetic in body composition and also in cardiac adaptation. But there are a little number of the studies. The studies have some quality that is not so strong that we need, and the population of the studies normally is not a top level population. Okay, normally they compare professional players with amateur players, for example, but don't have the outliers. We need to have Messi, Ronaldo, and so on in the same sample to compare with the difficult, because we need large samples and the outliers are not so many to publish studies in a short period of the time. So this question remains. There are a fast increase in the number of studies that are concerning this topic. So I believe that in a near future we can have more conclusions for that. The players will refer that the injuries are a severe problem in their careers. For example, this is a player that did 7 surgeries. Obviously, they are influencing in their
Professor Sarmento?
Yeah.
Excuse me, we are already 25 minutes over the time.
Yeah.
I would appreciate if you can just summarize and then make us conclusion.
Okay. The career decisions are very important in this process, okay? And I'm finalizing. This is not the last one, but there exists a complex relationship between the environment and the genetics. We know that we need some genetic aspects that we can promote with the right environment, okay? But there are so many differences and so many factors that can influence this process that we try to do the best things and to promote the best players, but there exists much more to investigate. To finish, I just want to promote the World Conference on Science and Soccer that we will organize next year in Portugal. So if you want to visit the beautiful city of Coimbra and Portugal, please don't hesitate. Okay? Thank you very much.
Professor. Thank you, Professor Sarneto. And if there is any question, you are welcome to ask. As I told you, we already over time, so we got one question from Professor Gardasevic. All right, Johan, it's your turn.
Thank you, Selçuk. It was a very nice presentation. I'm from Faculty for Sport and Physical Education of University of Montenegro, and I'm coming from football, and I have one question from Professor Sarmento. What is your opinion and what is the practice in Portugal? Should best coaches work with young football players and help them to develop their potential, or should they work with senior players? What is more important, development or results?
This is an interesting question. All the times we said that that the best coaches should be with the youngest players. But the normal process leads the best coaches to coach the senior teams, okay? But I think that in the last years, the Portuguese Football Federation developed an excellent work in improve the coaching process in youth, and I don't know if he is in your country, but they implement a system that certificate the quality of the clubs with youth teams, and this is very important, and they give a lot of importance with the coaching process in youth. Obviously, my opinion is that the better coaches should be with the young players. But normally we have this question, okay? Because there are a financial aspect, and all the people needs to or wants to earn more money, and the money is in the senior level.
Yes.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. Any other question? I cannot see anybody else. I mean, normally I was going to also ask some questions, but you know, like very simply, I would like to just point out that regarding your like one example from the twins football players, you know, it's more environmental than genetic.
Yeah,
I would say. So
yeah,
even though in most of the books about motor learning and control, they mainly all the authors mainly states that it's like 50% to 50% in order to get the success in any kind of sports. But depending on my experience and also your like presentation, it's like more likely going towards the environmental part than the genetical part.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I think that we need to have some specific genetic characteristics, but if you don't have the right environment, you don't have success for sure. Besides this example of twins, we have the example of the Ronaldo in Portugal. Okay, the brothers of Ronaldo don't do anything. Okay, they can't do anything. One of them tried to be singer and so on, but she can't. So, but Ronaldo was specific characteristics, and he came at the age of 11 to Sporting, and he lives in a specific environment that promotes the characteristics. And yeah, I agree with you. Not only in sporting, all the fields, we need some specific genetics, but we need to promote them with the right environment, the right experience, and so on. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Sarmento.
Thank you.
I would like to thank to all the audiences to patiently listen our distinguished invited speakers. Thank you again, and then just be safe and healthy. Okay, we have another question. I will get it like as a last question, if you do not mind, Professor Sarmento.
Yeah,
From
okay.
Slavko Rogan.
Yes, I'm Slavko Rogan from Switzerland, and thank you for the nice presentation. And I've only a comment regarding the environment and the genetics. I think we have to consider the epigenetics in the future, and have to look how epigenetics influence performance and so on and so on. That's only a comment from me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rogan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I agree with you. And as I said previously, I think that in genetics we are in the beginning, and we need to move forward with more deeply studies and with different perspectives. Yeah.
Thanks again for everybody.